Welcome, everyone. This is Our Travel Experiences. I'm your host, Kyle Rasmussen. And today I have with me Queen V, as her name is on Instagram, fitness life coach. V, how are you today?
I am great. I'm doing great. Staying in the air conditioning right now. It's really hot where I am. So
Okay, yeah, I understand that. It's like a heat wave everywhere right now.
yeah,
It's brutal.
that's right.
Well, I'm really excited to talk with you today about some of your travel experiences as well as your nutrition and fitness coaching and really life coaching. I think it's really inspiring just in the short time that I've followed you and kept up with what you're doing. I've been really inspired to keep pushing towards my goals. So I think this will be a really
Awesome.
fun.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to have this conversation. So
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's just start out, kind of give the listeners a little bit of background on you and how you started this, lifestyle fitness coaching.
yeah. So 4 years ago, I started working out, and that's kind of a story in and of itself. I was coming from um, ministry as a pastor, and
Okay.
I have 4 kids, and for for a good long time, I was not taking care of myself at all, not on a physical level anyway. And I started waking up feeling awful. I would wake up with headaches and body aches. I thought I had an autoimmune disorder because I just never felt good. And I started working out through a college class actually, and I was just amazed at how much better I felt just by the short, little time of working out. And it sort of started this domino effect of, well, and I was finishing my degree in psychology at the time,
Okay.
and it started this domino effect where I was like, well, I guess I'll join a gym. And I had never joined a gym before, and I was 36 years old, um, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And so I spent some college scholarship money on a package of personal training sessions. And I always tell people that package of personal training sessions totally changed the course of my life because it lit a fire in me, because I really fell in love with how specifically lifting weights really made me feel, gave me a sense of empowerment. All of the ailments that I had started to go away, and I loved the tie between the mind and the body, and then also spirituality. So it was just sort of this thing that I was missing in my life, and I fell in love with it so much that I started working at the gym that I was going to, and I eventually became a personal trainer. And then thanks to COVID, I took a lot of clients online after that, and so it sort of blossomed into this really cool fitness and life coaching. Really, the life coaching came out of COVID, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. Um, but that's kind of the condensed version of the whole thing.
hmm Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of a crazy journey to kind of get where you are today. But I mean, it seems like you found a place for you that really fits and makes you feel really good about yourself, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually as well.
Absolutely. I really stumbled upon the gym that I work at right now, and I have a great community of people that I work with every single day. The owner of the gym, it's really funny just how, you cross paths with somebody that you never expect you're gonna, you know, have your vision align with so well. But that really is what happened. And um, and I love what I do, not because it has so much purpose behind it. It's not just helping people to like lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever. Like the transformations that we get for people, they have so much more to do with their life than just like somebody lost. Like we,
hmm
there's a story behind all the pictures that you see on our Instagram. Like you might see somebody go from you know, losing 30 pounds, 50 pounds, whatever. And that's what you see. But if you could understand the story, and the grit that it took to get from point A to point B, like that's a whole nother level. And really, it starts to touch other areas of your life too, not just like your physical health, but relationships, your career, your overall happiness. And those are the stories that I love. And I love that I get to wake up every day and know that I'm making a difference in people. And fitness is the tool that we use.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can speak to that myself too. I really was. I had always been active and fit to some extent, but COVID really showed me that being healthy, not just physically but mentally as well, is really important. And so I started on this fitness journey, and all the things that you said were so true. Like lifting those weights and just over time just seeing that change. I mean, I can't even recognize the person I was
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago. It's insane.
Yeah, yeah. No, the physical change is really cool because it gives you something tangible to grab to, and you realize, because not everything that you put in work for has actual tangible results sometimes, or at least not, very obviously, or they take a really long time. Like if you are, you know, for a job, you might not necessarily see tangible results right away, but if you start working and you fix a few things with your nutrition, you can see results pretty quickly. Like might be a long journey, but you can start to see the progress right away. And so, um, you know, there's that, and then there's the feeling too. Like the feeling is like the perfect instant gratification that we're all sort of looking for, that sense of empowerment, that sense of we can't control a lot about our life. A lot of happens throughout our day, throughout our week, whatever, but we can control most of the time what we do with our bodies, what we put in our mouth, what we put in our minds. And so having that sense of like, no, this is for me, this is for my health, because I love myself. Um, there's something about that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's something that like really drew me to you on Instagram is you talk a lot about taking control of your life and
Mm-hmm.
focusing on things that you can control. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
a really great mindset to
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
as you're on your journey towards whatever your goals are.
Totally, totally. Well, I remember when I was a teenager, my grandmother gave me this journal that had the Serenity Prayer on it. And I don't know if you're familiar with that Serenity Prayer, but it's something to the effect of, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And you know, as a 41-year-old now, I realize how much wisdom is in that simple prayer, because what I see in myself and in working with clients a lot of the time is that we get super, super anxious about things that we have no control over. Like whether you're talking about, things that you see in the media, or something, you have like we really can't control other people. So whatever is going on with your neighbor next door, or even in your own family, sometimes like you have a limited amount of control of what you can do about that situation. But what you can control is yourself, and it's really about the only thing that you can control.
Mm-hmm.
So really having some clarity, um, to understand what you can do about certain things, what you can't do, and then having that um, sense of responsibility that whatever you can do, you have the power to do. I don't know if I said that very well, but you know, a lot of the time we feel powerless about the things that we actually can do something about, and we try to control too many things that are actually outside of our control, and we get it all flipped flopped all the time.
Yeah, definitely. How do you help your clients focus in on something that they can actually control?
Yeah, so when I work with clients, I tell them, yes, you just have, you know hired me as your coach and you're on quote unquote Queen Bee's program, but this program is your program. Like, you are your program right now. So one of the things that I want every client to really gain by doing a program is some self-awareness, and for them to increase their self-image and confidence. So every day I tell them, I want you to have some non-negotiables. So for most people, those things are going to be, you're going to work out, or you're going to work out in some way. Like, you might not have access to a gym every single day. You might not have perfect circumstances, but you can do something to move your body. And that's where we start to like separate the things that we can control versus things we can't control. So sure, you might be traveling, you might be on vacation, you might be doing all these things, but can you do squats in an airport? Sure can. Can, you know, like, we just start to take control. Like, these are my non-negotiables. So so your workout is going to be one. You know, having control over your nutrition, and I teach my clients how to count their macros, because that gives people flexibility with their diet. And if you, we can get into macros if you're interested about that, because that's something that's really helpful, especially when you're traveling and you're trying to stick with your nutrition. And then also something, self-reflection. So whether that means journal, prayer, meditation, whatever is the thing that sort of allows you to self-reflect and to gain some of that self-awareness and things that you learn while you're in of trying to stick to your nutrition and trying to stick to your workouts. It kind of ties both of those things together. So, and then by instilling that standard in your life every single day, it's of forcing you to see where your blind spots are. You realize, like, oh, maybe I do emotionally eat, or maybe maybe I do have a little bit of a discipline problem, or you know, whatever the issue might be. And so that program, that standard that you are sticking to, really starts to your awareness. And as you work everything out in the application, you see the confidence start to take place, because when you follow through with the promises that you've made to yourself, even before the results come, your confidence starts to grow. So that's cool to see.
Yeah, and I would guess it's, you know, probably pretty rewarding for you to see that change in other people as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a bulb gets on. My client who was just telling me, it's really fun to hear, you know, like I said, you have the tangible results of, like, okay, she's lost 50 pounds. And this client I've never even met in person. She lives in another state. And I was talking to her the other day, and she was telling me, V, she's like, I'm so excited because I actually had the guts to tell this guy that I liked him. She's like, I never would have had that confidence to do that before. So it's really cool because, like I said, it starts to touch all these other areas of your life, and you start to actually live the life you want, settle for the life that you had to live.
Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome to hear. I mean, going back to my personal experience, I understand, you know, what that's like, and it's amazing that change that, you know, that focusing on your fitness and nutrition can really do for you in all aspects of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It touches everything if you decide to let it. If you start winning in nutrition, if you start to really use that, what you've learned, and some of the success mechanisms that you have built when you start to see tangible results, and you actually take those things and you place them as a blueprint over other areas of your life, I mean, the sky's the limit. Because if you, I mean, you are in great shape, so probably work out every day. You probably, you know, do things when you don't quote unquote feel like it. And that's exactly what you have to do when you're in a relationship or when you're in a job. Like, you can't listen to your feelings all the time. You'll never get anywhere. You're going to end up in circles. So, and that's just one thing out of, you know, maybe 25 different things that you learn by just having having a program, is basically what it is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, I think you kind of touched on it there, but the hardest part I think is one, getting started, but then keeping that discipline, as you said, keeping that
Mm-hmm.
so that every day you're continuing with those habits. How do you
Mm-hmm.
help people, get started and stay with it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, like you said, getting started for most people when they're first starting is usually not a problem. Like I don't ever pull anybody's twist anybody's arm to do a
Yeah.
program with me. So usually getting them started isn't too bad. It's getting them to stick with it. And I
Mhm.
hear from quite a few people like, um, I usually fall off at the 3 week mark, or I usually fall off after this month, And so we have to do some work in order to change that paradigm and to change that story that they've said about themselves, because that means that they're using some of those losses to project into their future. So we have to change the story. And that's why I talk a lot about empowerment, because we absolutely have to change our story, especially the story that we're telling to ourselves about ourselves. And so that's where that journaling really starts to come in really handy, because I have my clients write out exactly what you want yourself to look like, and not just physically, like how you want to be, period, like how you want your character to be, how you want your energy to be. um, and so if you can start to really focus on that vision that you have for yourself, for your life, for every part of your life, it starts to change your focus off of the fear of what you aren't and onto the hope what you actually already are. I don't even think it's something that you're far off into. It's not like you're trying to be something that's far off into the future. It's just uncovering a lot of those things that we conditioned ourselves to believe because we've been disappointed before. Um, so a lot of it has to do with just changing the story, starting to follow through with the things that we promised to ourselves, really using that journaling time and self-reflection, and then just uh, yeah, just changing that paradigm. Not letting ourselves kind of sabotage our own story by relating to. I always tell my clients, like, you have to listen to your feelings, but you do not obey them. That little voice that you hear in your head that's trying to tell you, like, home today, like, don't go to the gym, sleep today, you deserve it, you're tired. That voice, I always say, is the mean girl in Mean Girls. Is Regina Large. And we kind of make a joke about it, but she will sabotage you. She will tell you to do things that is not the. So don't listen to her, and you have to treat it like it's not even you. It's not you that is telling yourself that. It's some other voice, and you have to separate yourself out from that feeling and really listen to that higher version of you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I feel like there's, the short term you like here in the now and in the short term rewards, which are always so tempting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think I would guess, maybe I'm wrong in this. You can correct me, but if you start thinking about that long term vision, those goals that you write
Mm-hmm.
down,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of thing, if you stay focused on that, I think it can kind of help you, stay committed towards your long term goals and realize that some of those short term goals aren't aligning with actually what you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What you focus on grows. Um,
Mhm.
what you whatever the other way that I sometimes put it is, you have to fight desire with desire. So I don't know
I
if
like
you've ever
that.
heard of that study with the kids, where they put the marshmallow in front of them. But
Oh
if
yeah,
you,
yeah.
yeah, so if you just YouTube it, you can see this little study with that they put this marshmallow in front of kids, and they were like, if you don't eat this marshmallow, you can have another marshmallow when I come back in the room. And the person would leave the adult would leave the room, and they'd have a hidden camera where they're showing these kids that are just like wanting this marshmallow so bad, but they know if they wait they can have another marshmallow. And they really really want this marshmallow, and that is a perfect picture of what we do as adults all the time. Like, can you put off that short-term desire so that you can have that thing that you actually really, really, really want. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whatever. And so what if you're always focusing on the marshmallow that is right in front of you, your desire for that marshmallow is going to grow and grow and grow, and it's going to drive you crazy. So you have to focus on what you actually want. And so that one of the other journaling things that I have my clients do is to write down what your goals are. Like, they kind of, I'm sure they probably at some points get tired of me saying, like, what are your goals? They're like, I told you my goals already. I'm like, well, I want you to tell me again, because those are the things that I want you to focus on. Like, what do you want, and why do you want it? And if you can stay focused on that, especially on an emotional level, that why is really, really important, because
Mm-hmm.
that's actually probably more important than the actual goal. Like, if you say, like, I want to lose 30 pounds, well, why do you want to lose 30 pounds? They're not just trying to lose 30 pounds. They're trying to feel more confident. They're trying to have that sense of empowerment that I can wear what I want to wear, and I can run down the beach if I want to, and I can stand in front of my spouse and not feel embarrassed, and all those things that are actually more important than the actual weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, and if you can connect to it on an emotional level and have the faith really that you can actually do it, it's gonna happen. I always tell my clients, like, I will work with you on anything. Like, is you cannot quit and you can't ghost me. Like, the only way that this isn't gonna work is one of those two things. But we're gonna make this work. I don't think there's anybody that can't have that goal. Like, there's a way to do it. So, because I hear people all the time that really have a limiting belief about whether or not they can see their goal. They're like, well, I'm 40, or I have this many kids, or it's too late for me, or I used to be that way. And those are all garbage. Like, I've seen it happen over and over again with client after client. It can happen if you let it, if you decide to.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at what's possible rather than what's not possible. I know something that frustrates me a lot, because I went from not running like ever. I was like, I'm not going to run unless something's chasing me, kind of thing. Had never run more than 3 miles in a row at any one time. And then COVID, I was like, you know what, I got to change some things, and I think it'd be cool to do a half marathon. And so I started running, and I was like, man, I can't do this at first. And then very shortly after I started, I was like, you know what, I got to believe that I can do this. So I started to say, I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
And 3 years later, I just a month ago completed a 100-mile ultra marathon.
Wow.
And it's just like, 3 years ago, I never would have. I was the person who said, that's impossible. I can't do that. I'm the person. I'm like, man, I can run 100 miles. I can run 200 miles.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna do it, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta believe in yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's such a cool story. Like, you went you went from not running at all to running an ultra marathon. That's quite a turnaround. And I always tell my client, because I hear, like, oh, I can't get up early, or I can't do this. And I always tell people, like, if you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to be at the gym by 5 and working out every single day and teaching people how to lift weights, I would have said you're crazy. Like, that is not the story that I in my head about myself at the time. But that's exactly what I do, and I absolutely love it. So, so whenever you can always your own story. It's a matter of deciding to. Like, you made that decision, and there's a lot of power in just a single decision if you commit to it. You decided to do something when you went through COVID and you started to run. You had to do something, and now look.
Yeah, it's wild, and like you said, just staying committed to that, focusing on that long-term goal is so important. I'm curious, in your you said over the last 4 years, you've really been on this journey. Have you had any, bumps in the road, things that have kind of tripped you up, or maybe some times where you couldn't stay disciplined or had a hard time with that?
Oh man. Have I had any hard times? Um, I was just talking to the owner of the gym about this, and we were talking about everything that I've gone through over the last 4 years. But I'm really proud to say that I actually, we were talking and I was like, I don't think I've ever canceled on a client. Like when I've done a personal training session, I always showed up to my workouts. I've really lived my program. I really have, because when I really did make that decision, it came from a lot of heart. In the last 4 years, I went through a divorce. My dad died. My sister died. I found out that I have a genetic condition, and that really threw me for a loop. I got, I had to move. I've been through court cases. Like I've been through all of these hardships, and some of them happening, multiple things happening all at one time. Like last year was crazy. I was being sued. I got kicked out of my apartment. That was right when my sister was sick in the hospital. Like I had all numerous things going on. And I tell people like the program really saved me. Like, and when I say I really had to dig in, and because when that happens, your world is sort of falling apart. Like everything feels out of control. Like there weren't very many things that were in my control in that time. But again, I could control whether or not I moved my body. And that right there actually was probably the thing that helped me the most. Like I never missed a workout because I needed it. Like I really needed it. And I knew it wasn't just that I would wake up and I would feel like working out. Like it wasn't the case. But I knew that I would feel better if I did. So I have like videos of doing home workouts in the middle of a bedroom that I was staying in when I was visiting my dad when he was sick in the hospital. And um, I have videos of me working out outside, in random places, just doing
Yeah.
squats and push-ups. Not for I didn't care about what my body looked like at the time. I didn't care about any of that. It was just about putting me in a state where I could show up for people, for myself, so I could show up with good energy, because I knew the people around me needed love. We all needed to be there for each other. And if I can manage my state, because when you work out, you are able to have that self-regulation, that self-control that you gain from having that kind of workout, that you show up in life with better energy, and you are able to actually not spill your garbage on other people. You know, having that sort of self-control in those moments is really something that I worked on. So and it's been a hard 4 years, if I'm being really honest about it. But and that's why when I work with clients and I help clients, I can really relate to a lot of things that people are struggling with. And even though in the moment I didn't love my struggle, I'm also grateful for my struggle, because I know that I can help a lot of people
Yeah.
because I was able to stay committed, and because I was able to stay strong, and I've been able to hold that line and pull people up out of their own pit, because I do understand what the pit is like.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a tough story, I'm sure, to share, but it's a great example of if you just stay committed and stay focused on what you can do, then
Hmm.
who knows where you can go.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. One of the things that I always tell people is like, when when you go through something, you often end up with a message from it. You know, you learned, anytime you go through something and you learn from it, you know, you that's a message. And when you do that over and over and over again, your life is the message. And you're like, that's really the goal for, I think, what everyone is looking for. We're all looking for purpose. Like, we're all asking those, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, once we quiet ourselves and we're alone with ourselves, we're asking, like, what am I here for? And so you're here, you know, you get to answer that question, and some of those questions get answered through the hardship.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. I'm curious, you having gone through your journey and you know, going through all the things you've done and then the successes you've had and everything, how is focusing on yourself and your own journey helped you help others?
Mm-hmm. I think it all starts with focusing on yourself. If you can't teach someone, it's really hard to teach something to someone that you don't already know on a personal level. Like, you wouldn't teach someone to swim if you don't know how to swim. And so if you want to help people, you can't really teach anyone anything that you don't know from experience. You can tell when somebody has learned something from a book or reading a quote, or you know, something where it's just kind of like been absorbed by, you know, by being around something or someone, versus when they've actually lived it. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about cliches. And, you know, you can hear cliches all the time, but something changes when the person saying it has actually lived it, and you can feel that power behind it. And so you know, that's why I say, I'm like, even though I don't love the trials, I don't love the struggle, I am grateful for them, because I can help people, and I think I've chosen to help people. I think there's a lot of, I've gone through a lot of things, um, and they, you know, they're glad they made it through, but they don't often leverage their story, their power of their story, to help other people. And usually after a while in my program, once clients have, you know, reached some level of success with something, that's one thing that we start to talk about, is like, you have value to bring to the world because you all have overcome something. So why would you hide it away? And that's really, in what I believe is part of our purpose as human beings, is whatever you've overcome is sort of your gift to the world. And it starts to become one of the most fulfilling parts about your life if you can actually make it through some of this personal development that it takes to be able to tell your story. Because a lot of the time we're afraid of our own story, we're ashamed of those things. Like, you know, when I was going through a lawsuit or a custody case last year, I didn't talk about it anyway, because those are things that you feel sort of embarrassed about. Like, I didn't want people to know. But now I can sit here today and I'm like, I made it through. And it all turned out, you know, well for me. And I am proud to say that I stuck with my program, and I learned things, and I'm able to help people with things because of it. But in the middle of it, in that messy middle is what I like to call it, we have some kinks to work out, but then we let it become part of overcoming. That's what helps people, is really just being vulnerable and sharing your story.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that honesty is really important for, you know, just creating a, you know, a good positive environment for everyone.
Mm-hmm. I think vulnerability is actually really powerful, and being able to be authentic, and that's what people are craving anyway. You know,
Yeah,
we all love it when somebody is really just honest and real. We're like, huh, that person's refreshing.
yeah.
And it's oftentimes because they're just being really honest.
Hmm. Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit,
Mhm.
I know you mentioned macros a little bit earlier. Talk a little bit about that and maybe how people can keep up with that while they're traveling.
Yeah, macros, simply put, are just an overall term for proteins, fats, and carbs. And most people have heard of counting calories. I have my clients count macros simply because it's not just about calories in. There are people who will say that if you're going to stick to a certain diet for any amount of time, you're going to have to be mindful about what sort of things those calories are made of, and the quality of the food that you're using too, because you could have, if you're sitting in a calorie deficit of say 1500 calories but you're eating all garbage, well, you're not going to be able to fuel your body well enough to maintain your workouts or even your just day-to-day life. So how you break up those calories is really important. And so when I work with macro goals to hit, and I have them track their food, and they need to hit a certain number of protein, a certain number of carbs, and a certain number of fat. And the nice thing about that is when you are traveling, um, it gives you that flexibility. So if you want to go out, um, you start to learn what what makes up protein, like what are your protein options on that menu, what are your carb options, and what is the fat in there, and it's basically a budget. So sometimes I'll tell
Yeah.
people, like, you have enough money, quote unquote, for the shoes or the dress, but not both, so pick one. And so um, it's basically a budget, gives you some freedom to how to spend, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, I feel like. Um, I feel like that's a simple way to go about it too. I think that's something that anyone can do and keep up with pretty easily.
hmm It is really simple. It's simple but difficult for most people. So it's not really hard to understand. It's, the things that are easy to do are easy not to do. And that's why I do life coaching, because it's not that there's some sort of secret. Like, I give away a lot of free information on my Instagram, hiding that I count macros. If you message me and you want me to give you macros, I'll give you macros. Like, I'll tell you what I think you should probably be eating. And that's no secret. But I know that in the nitty gritty of things, helping you to go from point A to point B, that how to navigate certain things, that's where the value is. And that happens more through a coaching experience than anything.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Okay, this might be a little bit off topic, but like on the macros front, or just eating foods that are good and healthy for you. Um, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but for me, I feel like when I started focusing on eating those, higher protein foods and healthier foods, and over time, I feel like I developed a taste for that, and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden it became the normal. And then, eating that McDonald's cheeseburger all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
sounded great. It wasn't something I wanted to do anymore.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I think your taste buds come back alive after you stop eating all the garbage, all the processed food. Um, and then you actually start to, if you go back to that McDonald's cheeseburger and you taste it, it's almost like you can taste everything that's in it other than meat or whatever they
Yeah,
put in it.
yeah,
And then you're right, it's not appealing anymore. I definitely think that happens.
yeah. And maybe that's the case with our goals as we work towards our various goals. All of a sudden that those old bad habits don't become that appealing anymore.
hmm I agree. I love that. I think we start to see things for what they really are instead of it being so appealing. It's like our eyes get opened to what's possible. And then we can't go back because we're like, "Oh, I remember that, and that wasn't that great."
Definitely. Now I know you have a very helpful cookbook to help people with their macros and nutrition and all that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, um, so I live in California now, but I'm originally from South Dakota, and I grew up in a home with five sisters. And I started cooking from the time I was 12 on, and I have kids now, and so I feel like I've been cooking my whole life. um, and when I cook, it's really simple. Like I'm not. I live in where everyone is like obsessed with gourmet food and foodies. And I love that. Don't get me wrong. Like I like food, and I enjoy the fancy restaurants here and there. But my style of cooking is more home cooking, just really simple because it's really what I know and what most people need. So I made this cookbook, I think years ago now. But it has a bunch of high protein recipes in there, and I kept them as low fat as I could as well. And it's just it's just a collection of a bunch of recipes so that people can, at least if nothing else, get some inspiration on what they can uh, cook, because I think most people need simple.
Definitely. Yeah, I feel like the simpler the better for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Everybody's busy. We have jobs, and some people have kids, and and sometimes just having somebody say, here's 5 things you can do with ground turkey. It's like, oh, that sounds great. This one sounds the best. That can take a load off. So it's just a way to help. I I give it away to most of my clients, and it's there in my Instagram bio. But I just wanted to really be a resource for people so that they can, have inspiration.
Yeah, I love that. Now, do you go and travel to see clients? Because it sounds like you have them all over the place.
I do. That's something that I haven't done yet. I would love to do that. Over the last few years, I haven't. I used to do more traveling. I've had some clients come to me, which has been really cool. But yeah, I have travel to go actually meet some clients.
Mm. Is that something that you'd want to build into your coaching?
To be honest with you, Kyle, I haven't had that thought yet. I was thinking, I would be interested in that. I love to travel. I think it's really fun to see and experience new places. I think you learn something every time you travel, every time you go someplace you've never been before, and you start to realize, like, oh, you don't realize the differences. You start to realize, okay, I'm in a little bit of a bubble. Like, I didn't realize that didn't occur in other places of the world. And so I love to travel, and I think it's really cool. I also would love to host more events where I am in the Napa Valley, because I'm privileged enough to live in that, people really do want to visit. And so, I've hosted some smaller events that I'd like to eventually make a little bit bigger. Some lifting clinics, specifically for women, tied with some fun dinners out and things like that. So a little bit of, travel outside my area mixed with hopefully people coming to me eventually.
Yeah. I don't know. For me personally, that sounds fun. A good excuse to go somewhere and get a good workout in while you're traveling, and
Yeah.
or yeah, that host an event, and good excuse to meet people from all over the world, and learn from them too, and
Yep.
work on goals together.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's, that's what makes traveling, I think, more fun, destination and you know, seeing a new place. But then also when you can connect it to a community as well, I think it makes it even more special.
Yeah, yeah, and like you were saying too, I think it really helps you see your goals in a different perspective. I know for me, you know, I had these various goals, and then I traveled, and I came back, and I was like, oh, okay, I can see it differently. I can see a new path or something that would make it a little bit easier for me to actually achieve my goal, whatever that
Yeah.
is.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I think there's anytime you can gain clarity, I that's money. So
Yeah,
we say clarity is currency. So even though you know you have to spend money to go travel and do this and that, when the clarity that you gain from the experience is an investment if you use it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, V, any other tips or tricks or advice that you want to give people, or any stories you want to share?
Oh man, that's a huge for me. Wide open. Let's see here. um, whether you're talking about fitness or whatever it is, if you have a goal, writing down that goal, it gives you clarity. First of all, secondly, the why behind the goal, and if you can
Yeah.
take toward that goal, and then the next step, you're gonna make it. So I would say, you know, that would be my tip and trick. Just you know, have the vision, have the faith that you can do it, you know, and then take a step.
Yep. Yep. I think, you know, one step at a time, that's the way to do it. You can't for me, the analogies I use, you know, I can't run 100 miles without running 1 mile. Um,
Exactly.
so I think
Yes.
that's a really good way to do it.
Hmm.
I'm curious, one last question, just as you were talking about that. What are your thoughts on vision boards? Do you ever do that with your clients?
I like vision boards. I don't get as specific to say do a vision board, but one of the things that I do have them do is to write a self-image statement, which means that they're going to write out everything that they want their life to look like. And I kind of lead them through a prompt that has to do with, okay, well, what are you wearing and what kind of car are you driving? You know, so it's not necessarily, you know, you go like put a Pinterest board together or go cut a magazine or whatever. But in writing, have them do that. If they want to take that in writing form and turn it into a vision board, I'm all for it because I do think there's some power in visualization. But
Mm.
whether that comes pictures on a board or just pictures that you have in your mind, I think both work.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. Well, V, where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Queen3V, and that's VEE, 3 underscores, or you can visit my website, Queen, and then hyphen V.
Awesome. Yeah, and if people are interested in coaching with you, they just go on your website there and sign up.
On my website, you can fill out a form, or you can just DM me on Instagram. It's that simple.
Ah, easy enough. Makes it
Yeah,
really easy to take the first step, isn't it?
that's right. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole idea. We make it as simple as possible because life can be hard enough.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. That's you know, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's really inspiring. It's you know, it's amazing to hear your journey and you know where you came from and where you are now today, and how you're helping other people on their own journey. It's amazing. I think we need more people like you in this world.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on your podcast, and it was a pleasure talking to you and connecting with you here. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you somewhere around the world soon.
All right, sounds good.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye.